Hello guys, and welcome back to another Satisfactory guide. This time we're going back to basics and talking about the need to know recipe ratios in the early game to set you up strong. So if you find this helpful, please do drop a thumbs up, and if you want to see more, don't forget to subscribe. So, once you've fully unlocked the hub, there are some important milestones you need to research as soon as possible, which include base building for the foundations of the factory, then logistics for splitters and mergers for optimizing your ratios, and then logistics Mark II in Tier 2 for faster conveyors. Once done, we can get started on ratios. Now, a Mk1 Miner has 3 production speeds depending on a resource node. Impure nodes will give 30 items per minute, normal 60 items per minute, and pure giving 120 items per minute. So, jumping in with a miner on an impure iron node, you can run either a single smelter and constructor creating 20 iron plates per minute, a single smelter split to 2 constructors creating iron rods, then merging to create 30 iron rods per minute, or following on from the iron rods, we can add a splitter after the merger linking to 3 constructors creating a total of 120 screws per minute. Note that the conveyors linking the last 2 constructors to the storage container will need to be the Mark II conveyor. When it comes to a normal node, you can produce 60 iron ingots per minute, meaning you will be able to double up production of all of these. Also, do note that with normal nodes we can still run the items with the Mark I conveyors with a few exceptions, like before. So, we can create a total of 40 iron plates per minute using 2 smelters followed each by a single constructor, and then merging together and bringing them back to the front with a container. When it comes to iron rods, we're able to double up iron rods with 2 smelters, each splitting off to 2 constructors, and we will then merge all 4 constructors for a total of 60 iron rods per minute being brought back to the container. When it comes to screws, however, we can follow on from the previous layout, but we will then place a splitter at the end of the merger line. One line will run 3 constructors for screws, then merge to run along to a container. Note, you will need to use the Mark II conveyors for the merge line to the container. We will then repeat this 3 constructor screw layout on the following foundation. Unfortunately, until we unlock the Mark III, we will not be able to merge the 2 end lines together, and thus you will then need a second container that's being fed by another Mark II line from the other 3 constructors. Now at this point, if you're wanting to create a factory that covers all 3 items, so that you can slowly stock up over time, then I'd recommend a single smelter and constructor creating 20 iron plates per minute heading off to the first container, followed by a smelter splitting off into 2 constructors for rods, and from here we will place a merger in front of the first constructor and then a splitter in front of the second. Now the first lane will merge with the merger, taking a total of 20 iron rods to the first container. Now the first lane of the splitter in front of the second constructor will merge with the merger and in total take 20 iron rods round to the first container. We shall then merge the other 2 splitter lines with a merger placed in front of this splitter, which will lead to another constructor creating 40 screws per minute. So in total, this factory will create 20 iron plates, 20 iron rods, and 40 screws per minute. With the normal node out of the way, it brings us to pure nodes producing 120 raw resources per minute. So for following builds, So for the following builds, you will need to use the Mark II belts to transport the items to the smelters, and equally, whenever you have more than 60 items on a belt, you will also need a Mark II conveyor belt. First up, we have iron plates once again. Now this is the simplest of the pure recipes, requiring one constructor to each of the 4 smelters. You can then merge these lines together with the Mark II conveyors and deposit the 80 iron plates per minute into a container. When it comes to iron rods, we will need 4 smelters once again, each divided into 2 constructors, so we will have a total of 8 constructors, and all of these can then merge along the same Mark II belt line to the container, giving us a total of 120 items per minute. Next, we have screws. Now we will be repeating the previous screw build, however, due to the sheer amount of screws produced, we will need to split the line in 2. So after the first 4 constructors producing iron rods, we'll need to lift the second line above the other merging line. We will then need 4 columns of constructors, each 3 constructors long. Now the first 2 columns will be run exactly like the prior screw build, but once this is complete, we will then run the second merging line of conveyors to the next 2 columns of constructors to produce screws. Now each constructor line will then need to run across to a container, as each line will be transporting a total of 120 screws per minute, which is giving us a total of 4 fully saturated lines producing a whopping 480 iron screws per minute. Now at this point, I should mention there is no need for a total of 480 screws per minute in the early game, and would actually recommend doing the following split ratio build, as it will help you out more. So here we will have the first 2 smelters running into constructors for plates, and then depositing the 40 plates per minute into a container. Now the next 2 smelters will be creating iron rods with 4 constructors. The first 2 constructors will run rods to the second container, and the second 2 constructors will run rods to a screw line, where we shall create 120 screws per minute, which will then be merged and moved to the third container. Now do note that the screws, you will need a Mark II conveyor belt running items to the container, but this is going to give you all the resources you need really just to start off in terms of the iron. So there you are guys, 12 factory layouts for basic iron recipes when starting out in Satisfactory. Now if you did find this video helpful, please do drop a thumbs up, and if you want to see more, don't forget to subscribe, as we will be covering more factory layouts like this over the coming weeks. In fact, we'll have a copper one coming up soon, and we'll also talk a little bit in that video about limestone and concrete as well. Anyway guys, with that said and done, thank you so much for watching, and as always, until next time, ciao for now.